When we're young, we tend to believe everything people tell us. But, believe it or not everything you hear is actually true. Whether you heard it from a parent, teacher, or even on the internet, there are some things almost everyone believes that are simply false. So today, we're going to take a look at 10 lies you still believe. Number 10. The Great Wall of China is visible from space. You've probably heard that the Great Wall of China is the only man-made structure that you can actually see from space. But that's just a myth. A 2004 photo from the International Space Station may show the wall, but only with the help of a zoom lens. The Great Wall of China is just too narrow and follows the natural contours and colors of the surrounding landscape, making it nearly impossible to see from low Earth orbit. 9. Chameleons change color for camouflage. Chameleons have the remarkable ability to change color, but it isn't for what you think. They don't do it to blend into their surroundings and hide from predators, but for two other reasons. First, to regulate body temperature. Chameleons use their skin kind of like a thermostat. When they're too cold, they deepen their skin tone to a darker shade. Too hot, the skin shifts to a lighter color. They also do it to express their mood. They darken when they're fearful and lighten when they're excited. And of course, males sometimes use bright colors to attract female chameleons. Number 8. The famous painter Vincent van Gogh cut off his own ear because he was insane. The story goes that disturbed Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh cut off his own ear in rage after a quarrel with his friend, named Paul Gauguin. However, historians now believe Van Gogh probably made up the story to protect his friend, who actually cut it off during a sword fight. Who knows what really happened, but it makes for a much better story, doesn't it? Number 7. Sugar makes kids hyperactive. Many parents swear that just a little sugar is enough to turn their well-behaved youngsters into screaming, rampant monsters. While the claim may sound reasonable, scientific research has shown no data to back it up. Studies have found that sugar changes not a child's behavior, but rather the parents' expectations. Parents are more likely to say their kids are hyperactive after a big sugar fix, even if it's just a placebo. Of course, there are still other reasons why feeding your kids lots of sugar may not be such a good idea. Number 6. In Australia, water swirls down drains in reverse. If someone's ever told you that water swirls down the drain in reverse in Australia, they were probably just pulling your leg, or maybe they're just stupid. The origin for this myth comes from the Coriolis effect, which, put simply, pushes things in opposite directions depending on which side of the equator they are on. Although the Coriolis effect does affect things like airplanes and tropical storms, it's much too weak to be noticed in something like a sink or toilet. Number 5. Christopher Columbus discovered America and the fact that the Earth is round. If you learned in school that in 1492, Christopher Columbus discovered America, disproving the common belief that the Earth was flat, that isn't quite true. Actually, the ancient Greeks had realized the world was round over 1,000 years earlier. And it was the lesser-known Leif Erikson who was the first European to set foot on the American continent, nearly 500 years before Columbus. Columbus did, however, open up the Americas for conquest and settlement by Europeans. Number 4. George Washington wore wooden dentures. The famous claim that George Washington sported a set of wooden teeth is little more than a myth, but America's first president was certainly not a shining example of oral hygiene. Washington began losing teeth in his early 20s, and by the time of his inauguration, he only had one natural tooth left. While it is true that he wore dentures, they weren't made out of wood. Instead, his false chappers were made out of varying combinations of rare hippopotamus ivory, human teeth, and metal fasteners. He disliked wearing them because of the discomfort they caused in his mouth, and their unsightly appearance may have been what lighted the rumor that they were made from wood. Number 3. Different tastes are detected on different parts of the tongue. The tongue map comes from a common misconception that separate parts of the tongue produce different tastes. Actually, the entire surface of the tongue is fully capable of detecting different tastes. The famous tongue map started with a paper produced by German scientist D.P. Hanig in 1901, which showed that the strength of taste varies across the tongue. Later, the data was misunderstood, oversimplified, and redrawn into the tongue map, which eventually made its way into science textbooks, and the idea is still floated around as fact today. Number 2. Benjamin Franklin flew a kite and discovered electricity. The story goes that Benjamin Franklin flew a kite with a metal key attached to it during a lightning storm, and when the kite was struck by lightning, the charge passed through the string and into the key. However, there's no evidence that this really took place, and he certainly wasn't the first to discover electricity. He did write about an experiment involving a kite which would gather ions during a storm, but had he actually done as the story tells, he probably would have died of electrical shock. Number 1. You need milk for strong bones. Milk is absolutely necessary for a strong, healthy body if you're a growing cow. Several studies have shown no evidence that cow's milk improves bone health, but that it actually does the opposite. The problem is that milk contains a lot of protein that can make the body too acidic. To counter this, calcium is drawn from the bones to neutralize the acidity, and it leaves the body through the urine. The result is an overall loss in calcium, which could lead to bone fragility later in life. Did you like our list? Were there any myths we should have mentioned? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to our channel, where we make all kinds of interesting videos.